everyone. So this is a long-awaited update. Nothing has happened the last 3 months. I think the last time I filmed a video was in September or October, probably very beginning of October, if probably September. I posted it later, but I filmed it then. So I haven't been doing anything. We've just been waiting, and everybody said that with surrogacy, you rush to get everything done, and then you wait, and then you rush, and then you wait. And that's kind of been what's going on. I got matched with my IPs in September, like right when I made the last video. So end of September, beginning of October, probably end of September. And they wanted to do things a little bit differently because they had a previous surrogate who they had basically the contract ended because she didn't pass medical clearance with their clinic. But standard way of doing it is legal and then medical clearance. But because of that, they wanted to play it safe and get me medically cleared with their clinic before we did legal to save themselves the lawyer fees if I wasn't cleared, which I totally get. So we waited a while to get into their clinic, and that's what kind of the whole long wait was. Took several weeks for them to get my records, review my records, put me in their system, and then I think a few weeks later, then I was scheduled for an appointment. So my appointment was scheduled for November 14th, which I remember because it's William's birthday. And I believe that was a Tuesday, because that Monday I got an email from my intended mom, and she said the appointment was having to be canceled. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, we've waited all this time to get into this appointment. But the clinic had a surrogate specialist who worked with all the surrogates, and she stopped working there. I don't know what happened there, but anyway, she's no longer there. And they basically needed to do 3 things before I came in for my appointment, and they didn't do any of them. And it was the day before the appointment, and so therefore I had to cancel my appointment. So that was a bit frustrating for me and the intended mom because, you know, this just extends it even longer. So the 3 things were they had to review my psych stuff that CSP had done. And then one was the rubella shot, and then there was one other thing. I don't remember. So they reviewed my psych stuff like in the week following, and she asked me about my rubella. So back up a couple of months before I had been matched with my IPs, when I was still kind of in the process with CSP getting all of my medical stuff in and all of my doctor sign-offs on stuff and all that kind of stuff. All past pregnancy info, birth, all that. To them, one of the medical people at CSP called and asked me about my rubella shot. And I was in the car at this time, and so I'm like, no, I've been fully vaccinated. I'm in the car, but, you know, when I get home, I'll review my records. I'm like, CSP has all these records, but I'll just, you know, pull them up real quick at home, and then I'll get back to you. I get home, I see that I had 2 rubella shots, 2 MMRs, and that is qualified as being fully vaccinated. And so I called her and I told her, and she said, okay, well, if you can just possibly get a booster, that would be great. And I'm like, okay. So I had a post-op appointment because I had a nasal surgery done, and so I was already going to be at Kaiser anyway, so I'm like, I'll just pop into the nurse and get the rubella shot, and then it'll be good. I waited 20 minutes, and then I got back to see the nurse, and she's just like, you're fully vaccinated. And I'm like, I know, but I'm doing surrogacy, and they said that I need a rubella booster, and if you don't have the rubella just individual, then I could have the full MMR booster. And she's like, we don't do that. There's no booster for these. And she's like, we never give more than the 2. So anyway, she's totally interested in surrogacy, so we were talking about that for a while, but she's like, I'm going to have to talk to your doctor because unless he signs off, like, she's like, I've never heard of anybody having like an additional rubella shot because you're immunized against it. So I called the agency back, and they're like, oh, no worries. You know, if your doctor says that there's no booster, then you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So fast forward, now the IVF clinic wants my rubella, and I tell her the same thing, fully immunized. I've had 2 of them. went through this whole thing with CSP. They wanted me to get a booster. My doctor said there was no such thing as a booster. And the lady's like, well, I have your lab work and it's not showing up in your blood. So apparently with rubella, it's an every 10-year thing. Never knew of that. My doctor never knew of that. And then I ended up going to a different doctor because our insurance changed for the shot. And they had never even heard about it before. Only lasting 10 years. But it was no longer showing up in my blood. And that is a risk during pregnancy. And so I had to get it. But the bummer with that is I had to wait 30 days from the date of the shot. I was able to get the shot a couple days later. I had to schedule an appointment, and I think it was on Thursday that I got this call. And so I got the appointment on Monday to get the shot. But I had to wait 30 days from the day of the shot before I could even go into the IVF clinic. So my appointment was scheduled for December 21st. And I was like, okay, here's another month of doing nothing. And I think, so I was a little bit frustrated with the agency about that because I was like, this was many months ago. I could have had the shot and now it's delayed, but whatever. People make mistakes. This process is just going to take longer. And that's okay. But I think in that time, like I'm an overanalyzer. And so before I had so much stuff to do. I had this and this and this and check these things off and do this and go here. And I had all this stuff to do. And now all of a sudden, like I'm sitting and I have nothing to do for this. And so I just started, you know, rolling around it in my mind. And, you know, I'm part of a Facebook surrogacy group. And so seeing some stories on that and then talking to some of the ladies at my agency about some of the stories in which had happened for them when they go to their IVF screening appointment. And so that's the official name of this, IVF screening appointment. And so I was starting, so by the time, you know, December 21st runs around, well, it's actually, it got moved to the 22nd because my kid's last day of school was the 21st and it didn't make a difference for them. So, so I was totally nervous by the time we went down to this appointment because I've been hearing stories of how a woman had 3 babies and then she goes in for her appointment and she has half a uterus. No one had ever noticed that before. Or people who go in there and they have polyps and they've never had any symptoms or anything of that, and then they have to have surgery to remove them. And I was nervous. Like, I know it's ridiculous, but I think I just had a little too much time on my hands to, you know, think about all the worst case scenarios here. So as we're driving down this appointment, I was like terrified. My husband had to come too because he needed to redo labs with them, as I did too, because there was a few other things they wanted to screen us for that don't fall into the normal screening that CSP had already done. So they just had us do the whole big thing again. So we did blood work when we went down. So we were told to allot 3 hours for this appointment. I was like, 3 hours? What the heck are we going to be doing for 3 hours? But it ended up being an hour and a half. Everything went great. So we did blood work first. I think I had like 12 vials or something. Matt had like 8. We both had to do a urine sample. And then we did a mock transfer. So it was a 3-part. So it was the blood work, mock transfer, and then a saline ultrasound. I'm not even kidding you. The mock transfer, I didn't even notice. She's like, well, that went amazing. And I was like, you did something? Like, it's a teeny little tube in there, which is attached to a syringe. And then she, you know, pretty much just goes, boop, that's it. I'm like, I didn't feel a darn thing after all the things that I've had done. Like, didn't even notice a darn bit of anything. And so she said that went perfect. It went in smoothly, nothing problem. And then she's like, okay, so now I'm going to do the saline ultrasound. And I was like, this is what I'm terrified for, that I'm going to have like half a uterus or like a bicoordinated uterus or whatever. So she does it and we watch on all the screens. She like blows it up. She's like, oh, this looks great and this looks great. She measures this and that and she's like, oh, you look great. So I was really relieved and my husband was like, see, I told you didn't have to worry. But anyway, so really, really well. And then we spoke to the nurse of the IVF doctor. So we didn't even meet with her IVF doctor. Another doctor, I think she called her a fellow or something, did this. And then we met with the nurse after and we talked about schedule. She showed us how to do the shots. I thought I was only ever told about the progesterone in the back. I also have to do another one in the front. Which I didn't know about, which is fine. And then patches. So it's like a 3-part deal. And then also this clinic wants me to do, me and Matt, to do an antibiotic before. So we have a 5-day like Z-Pack thing. And I've actually done a Z-Pack before, and that's when I was like deathly ill last Christmas, like 2 Christmases ago. And I was on this intense antibiotic, which was like the Z-Pack. And so she's having us on that, which I'm like, oh, you're killing it then in there. So we both have to be on that, and then we do the shots. But so she just went over that with us and gave us a completely rough draft of a calendar, just to kind of just show with the shots and with the patches and what it says on there of this is how much cc's you have to do on this day, and this is how many patches you have to do on this day. And so she reviewed that with us, and she's like, these are not your dates. Let me stress, these are not your dates. But it was just to kind of get a mental picture of what that would look like. So that was exciting. I was like, all right, finally we're moving in this process. And then, let's see. So yeah, basically, so we left that appointment. We were given medical clearance by the doctor who had done it. And she said, everything looks great. The only thing we have to wait for is the blood work. And we had already done the vast majority of the blood work before. And so she just had to wait on the last couple of things that they screened for that weren't screened before for the final clearance. Which I didn't worry about that. I was like, whatever, that's going to be back fine. But because of the holidays, that was really delayed. But I was able to text my intended mom and let her know, like, I got the all clear, you know, besides that last little blood work. And so she was thrilled, and obviously we were all thrilled, obviously. And so where we were standing as of the 22nd of December, we were good to move on to legal. My couple felt that we didn't need to wait for the last tiny little bit of blood work in order for them to feel comfortable to send us the contracts. So yeah, I'll do a separate video on that, but my IVF screening appointment went well. I was so excited. I got really stressed there at the end, but yeah, it was super easy. So it was, at least with my clinic, it was 3 parts. It was the additional blood work, which maybe you won't have to do that, like if your clinic doesn't need the extra, because I'm sure most agencies do that before. The mock transfer, and then the saline ultrasound. So it was really quick. I mean, if it wasn't for meeting with the nurse after, which obviously we needed to do that, we would have been in and out within like 30 minutes. Super quick. But anyway, my next video will be on the next step that we took, which was legal. So see you then. Bye.